To prepare for an in-class activity, fill out as much as you can tell me or as much as you know about each of these terms: fraction, ratio, rate, and proportion. We've been talking about these different terms for the last unit or two. They're very much related, but they all have different meanings, different uses, and different methods that we must follow in order to utilize them and calculate them. Write anything from definitions to example problems. When we apply rates, we use proportions just like we did with ratios. Rates are just a more specific versions of ratios, so we're going to just use a very specific version of proportions. When trying to solve for a missing value using rate, start by setting up the original rate from the word problem. In this case, the original rate is the amount of distance that we traveled and the amount of time. So you drive 350 miles on a road trip, and it took you 5 hours. So that's our original information. The rest of the question goes, if you travel the same speed, so if that rate were applied to new information, how many miles would you travel in 7 hours? I have a good understanding of this problem. I see my original rate. It's 350 divided by 5. Remember, if you get stuck on word problems, try summarizing them, retelling them in your own words. Once you have your original rate written as a fraction, we're going to start by setting up a proportion by filling in the third piece of given information in the correct spot. So if we need to figure out what information belongs to what value or which unit, well, the 350 is 350 miles, so I know my miles are in my numerator. 5 is 5 hours. Time usually goes in our denominator because it's a rate of time. Those variable labels carry on into the other side of the proportion. So if I'm given miles, I'll put that value up in the numerator. If I'm given hours, I'll put it in my denominator. I'm given 7 hours, so I'm going to put it in my denominator. Now I have 350 miles over 5 hours equals some unknown amount of miles over 7 hours. So I'm finding the new amount of distance, the new number of miles, if I drove the same speed, the same rate for 7 hours. Setting up the proportion is the challenging part. Solving the proportion is pretty straightforward. We've been solving proportions for quite a while. 350 times 7, so we're going to cross multiply. We're going to multiply the two values that are on an angle from each other and then divide that new product by the third value. So 350 times 7 gives me 2450. 2450 divided by 5, that other value is going to give me 490. I need to include a unit since it's a word problem. I know already because 350 was in my numerator and 350 was in miles. If I'm finding the other numerator, it has to be in miles as well. So 490 miles is my completely correct answer. Let's try a couple problems together. It takes you 24 minutes to walk 1.5 miles to school. If you forgot your homework at home and had to walk the whole distance 3 times, so you walk to school, home, and back to school, that's 4.5 miles. How much time would it take you? So we know the original rate. We're given 1.5 miles in 24 minutes. That's your usual rate. You know the distance you walk, you know the time it takes you to get to school. That's how we budget our time. Now, if you had to walk 4.5 miles, we would need to figure out the amount of time, the number of minutes. I knew to put the 4.5 in the numerator because that miles on the other side, 1.5, was in my numerator as well. To solve for the unknown amount of minutes, I just need to cross multiply. 4.5 times 24 gives me 108. 108 divided by 1.5, the other value left in the proportion, is going to give me 72. Now I know that this is a word problem, so my answer has to have a unit. It's asking how much time, so I know my unit needs to be minutes. Also, if I look at my proportion, it says that minutes is the only blank, the only unknown value. Let's say you're trying to budget your spending. So you spend $75 every 3 weeks on hanging out with your friends at the mall. How much money are you spending in 52 weeks, which is the equivalent of 1 year? So I need to start by setting up my original proportion. Dollar amounts generally go in my numerator. Time, or units of time, generally go in my denominator. So my original ratio is $75 for every 3 weeks. Now we need to set up a proportion using the other value, the other given value, so we can find the unknown. It's 52 weeks. Now, I know for 2 reasons 52 is going to go in my denominator, and my numerator is going to be x. It's unknown. First reason, Units of time, weeks, usually go in my denominator. On my original rate, it says that 3 is 3 weeks, so weeks are going to be in the denominator. If you have a hard time seeing this example, why 52 goes in the denominator, look at the example to the left. To the left, we took the time to write in miles, minutes, in the numerator and denominator on both sides. It told us exactly where to put the known or given values. If you choose not to label like that, you're essentially taking away a nice, easy filing system. It's hard to know where to put things if you don't remind yourself where to put them. Labeled or not, I can still solve this. 75 times 52, I'm cross-multiplying, gives me 3,900. 3,900 divided by the other value, so give me $1,300. I knew that at $75, my numerator was in dollars, so my other numerator also has to be in the same unit, $1,300. I also know my answer should be in dollars because it asks, how much money are you spending? There are a couple different ways to find that unit. It's very, very important. You want to make sure that you're clear what your numbers mean, not just that you arrived at an actual number.